Well, moving in to our next team in the AFC North, we have the Cleveland Browns. And I think the narrative is pretty simple. Will Deshaun make the jump that is needed? We know how talented this Cleveland Browns team is, but Deshaun Watson has played just 12 games in 2 years since coming back and being the Cleveland quarterback, and he hasn't thrown for more than 1,100 yards in either year. Obviously, limited games, but with that being said, Joe Flacco took them pretty far last year for what was expected of them, going through 4 quarterbacks. The Cleveland Browns gave up a 2022 first, a 2022 fourth, a 2023 first, a 2023 third, a 2024 first, and a 2024 fourth for Deshaun Watson, who has played 12 games. We know this defense is ready to win. We saw the front office go out. They traded for Jerry Jeudy. They extended him. They gave a boost to Amari Cooper's contract. Njoku balled out with Flacco. So we know he's got it in him. I wonder if we see the same effect with Watson. I just don't know. I mean, obviously you look at the Browns line and they look really good, offensive and defensive. But if that quarterback position can't put it together, that'll be the death of this team.
No, yeah. Well, and again, it's not even like there's no surprise to anybody about the Browns. Like, the Browns are about as straightforward of a narrative as we can get at this point. And Browns fans know best. That's what's funny is really there's not even any discrepancy about this narrative. This is one that nobody would disagree with as long as you spent any time watching the NFL recently. Because we'll go back here, Hunter, and, little time travel here. I think we could agree. I'll tell you, look, you see the logo on my hat here, as a Saints fan, I remember very clearly that when the Browns and the Saints were the last 2 teams in the running, look, I'm an honest guy. I was on the whole train of like, oh, come on, like, let's get this done and let's turn Nola back around. And if we get Deshaun in the building, it's not back to Drew, but like, golly, we're damn close at that point because of what I thought Deshaun was going to come back and do. Because if we remember again, maybe some of these youngins, are a little quick to forget, Hunter, but Deshaun Watson was absolutely lighting it up before all the bad stuff had come up, to put it
4,800 yards, 33 touchdowns, and 7 interceptions in his last year.
And he looked fantastic. It wasn't just the numbers. It was like he was really playing elite ball, like his pocket awareness, his ability outside the pocket, the arm angles. Like, Deshaun Watson truly looked like he was on like a I don't say this lightly. He looked like he was on Hall of Fame trajectory. Like he was going to be a quarterback that was going to have a very storied career, especially when we consider what he already did at Clemson, right? Like, Deshaun Watson is, like it or not, a storied football player already in his own right. I mean, right? Like, if we put it in perspective. So what I'm really trying to say is when the trade was happening, right, obviously all the things going on with him outside of football were very real and was something that everybody was paying attention to. But as far as the talent goes, right, a lot of people expected he was going to come back and be able to light it up and that stuff wasn't going to affect how he played and the time off wasn't going to affect. Well, as we can see, right, that's not exactly what's happened. And it hasn't been even close to old Deshaun from a mental standpoint, but much more so from a physical standpoint. So all of a sudden we're in a situation where you're saying to yourself, if you're the Browns, the one guy that we were basically certain was going to be the reason we could make a Lombardi run is all of a sudden the very guy that seems to be holding this roster back from making a Lombardi run. How ironic and how quickly things turn around in this league. But it's the bottom line, right, Hunter, is that if he doesn't make a jump this year, all of the sudden, we're going to look back on that, if we're not already, and saying it was the worst trade in the history of football. So there's a lot of pressure on the Browns, but not just the Browns. There's a lot of pressure on, I said things you can't even really say there's pressure on Deshaun. That's where it gets funny is because really what pressure? What pressure is there on Deshaun?
There's none. There is pressure, but there's not, because when you look at the contract, it was unprecedented. And you remember when the trade was going down, I could be remembering wrong, but tell me if I'm wrong, Dobbs. Weren't the Browns out of the running at some point? And then I think they came back with the fully guaranteed contract and they got back in.
That's actually what makes it so interesting is that I really do believe the Saints were like that close But that's when the Browns were like, okay. And I don't blame the Browns. I totally get it. From the optics of the Browns, you're thinking to yourself, if all we really need is the elite quarterback and we're getting prime Deshaun Watson, run it out. Like, give him that guaranteed money. We are the franchise of all franchises, us and the Lions, right, that have to do something finally, that has to finally make a push. Our fans are literally desperate, drooling for some type of success. So I get it from the optics of why the Browns would have done it. But it's like, we're looking at it now, Hunter, and this might have been the biggest mistake in modern sports history.
Another thing we got to think about, Dobbs, is Nick Chubb was a big part of this team, and he had a gruesome knee injury. Like, I don't doubt that he can come back from it. I saw him squatting 800 pounds already somehow, but it's like Chubb wasn't the youngest. That was a bad injury. So what if Chubb isn't back? I mean, Jerome Ford, okay. Deonta Foreman, okay. Like, I think Foreman is a lot better than people give him credit for. But I don't know, man. Like, if you don't have that run game, and kind of going back on what we were talking about with Watson, like, they were 5-1 with him starting quarterback as a starting quarterback last year. But he didn't look good. Like, he did not look fluid. And I really think taking a year off from football and coming back is probably one of the hardest things you can do. And I don't know if he's ever going to get back up to speed. I feel like it's such a momentum thing.
Well, I think, and at this point, you're spot on. I agree 100%. Hunter. I think the big thing too is what's really killing him is it's the year off, on top of the fact that he is just truly not as healthy as he used to be. Like, I think a lot of people are downplaying, like,
the shoulder.
Because we know, look, the reality is this: we've seen this so long, and a lot of fans don't really consider. I don't think. Like, I think they think of it kind of like, and I don't mean this in a disrespectful way. Just how a lot of fans think of it. Like, they think of football injuries too much like it's like Madden or some shit.
Yeah.
Like, oh, dude, his time's up. Like, he's healthy again. What do you mean? Like, the injury report said he's healthy. It's like, dude. These are legitimately
human beings.
Catastrophic injuries compared to what, like, when you hit our shoulder on, right? I'll use like a normal example. We slam our shoulder into the fridge. That shit's going to hurt for a few days, right? Now imagine getting slammed by a fridge, right, by somebody slamming you with the fridge and having it happen multiple times every day. And then it's not healing. And it's not getting better, and you're getting older. Like, that's the reality of how these injuries are occurring. It's not just this, he's healthy again, guys. Like, yeah, he might be healthy enough to get back on the field, but we're seeing that this is not just some injury to injury type of stuff. This is very clearly a lingering, I don't want to say arthritic because I'm sure that I'm wrong on that, but it's definitely it's a lingering pain, right? Like, this is not just something that's just coming and going. The shoulder thing has been, it's kind of like a timeline at this point. And that's another big narrative this year. Is the shoulder stuff finally over, or is it going to be just a continuum? Because we've seen,
I'll say this
goes every year, Hunter. He's over it. The coaches are all telling you it's in the rear view. It's water under the bridge. Week 3 or 4, the same injury is knocking at that door again. And I don't mean to be negative. I've just seen this shit so many times that I'm just going to look at it.
We saw it a lot with Cam, right? Like,
we see it with so many guys at this point. Like,
Cam, once he had that big shoulder injury, it was like he was never the same guy. He really wasn't. And unfortunately, quarterbacks need their shoulders to throw the ball. So I think it's going to be a very telling year. I think like this is the year where they're going to know if Deshaun is going to be their guy for the foreseeable future or they need to pivot, because it would be really bad if they like doubled down on Deshaun just because of the trade, because you have a Super Bowl ready roster and you don't want to waste that.
Absolutely. No, that is the sticky situation that the Cleveland Browns have put themselves in now here.